This week, we've seen radioactive retribution, violent vendettas, and folklore in flux. Let's dive right into what's on the pull list. All right, we're going to start things this week with Aquaman number 12, written by Jeremy Adams with artwork by John Timms. So this is part of the DCKO event crossover tie-in stuff, and Aquaman and Hawkman have to do battle. And the title of this book is Aquaman, so can you guess who's going to walk away with the win in this one? So Arthur has become pretty darn braggadocious with these new powers of his. He's kind of the avatar of the blue at this point, which means that he has all of Mira's powers and a whole heck of a lot more. He's leveled up. Water is everywhere. So of course, he is going to draw upon that power, especially, that whole 80% of a human being's body is made of water. Yeah, he uses that, especially with the nature of this issue being about the nature of the fight. Timms brings a really, really dynamic energy to the look of this book. It is totally, I don't know, just action inspired. This is like that episode of Dragon Ball Z, the one after the person powers up for like a half an hour straight. Yeah, this is what happens after that power up. Timms brings like that kind of energy to the book. So it wasn't consequential to the actual storyline that's been being developed in Aquaman, and it kind of at least pushed forward the narrative in the DCKO event. Was it necessary? No. Was it fun? Sure. All right, let's talk Assorted Crisis Events number 7, written by Dennis Camp with artwork by Eric Zawadski. So, in this issue, a man is dealing with the day in and day out of having a dead version of himself pop up without notice multiple times here per day, and him trying to feel out like what that means and how to kind of go about his day and normalize this. And it feels kind of like the most open-ended interpretation of an issue for Assorted Crisis events that we've gotten so far. Camp's narrative really explores the idea of loss and burden and self-care and kind of what it means to be desensitized and maybe to, I don't know, put aside that self-care, right? We can feel like, the burdens of real life and this guy's responsibilities coming down on him over and over and over. It was an interesting issue. I feel like this is the most that he allows the reader to kind of bring things forward that's, I don't know, make it a little bit open-ended, more so than previous issues here for sure. I can't say that it was the most effective issue, but it's Assorted Crisis events. I'm still having a crazy good time with it. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. All right, it's a return to the early 2000s, so let's talk The Darkness number 1, written by Mark Silvestri with artwork by Ed Beans. So this is absolutely a total retelling of what we had gotten previously with the first iteration of The Darkness, which at that time was drawn by Mark Silvestri and written by Garth Ennis. And on the night of Jackie Estacado's 21st birthday, he's a mob hitman and he kind of gets to gain the powers of his birthright, which means that he kind of becomes like a Green Lantern type character who can manifest anything. But he can only manifest it through his own willpower and only in the darkness. Now, I had talked about this a little bit on Ink and Insights, and I was kind of excited. I wanted to kind of recapture that fun energy that we had from the early 2000s. And I guess we did that, but what I wanted to do is kind of be transported mentally back into that mindset of a 12-year-old. And I can't say that it necessarily did that. What I wanted is maybe kind of like a fresh interpretation, something new and different that was going to excite me about this character. But really, this was like a Cliff Notes version of the same exact story that we already got. There's no interesting, I don't know, crisscrosses. There's nothing basically new that's being brought to the table. This looks the same, this feels the same, and honestly, with Garth Ennis not being the one that's writing it, it feels just a little bit watered down. So, Darkness number 1, I'm happy that I read it. It definitely reignited some memories, but I don't know if I'm going to be recapturing that feeling again. All right, let's talk DCKO Wonder Woman versus Lobo number 1, written by Joel Jones with artwork by Jason Howard and Carrie Nord. So it's the main man versus the Princess of Themyscira. They do battle. It's exactly what you would expect, basically, right? It's a battle of epic proportions. It's silly. It's exactly what I want. And I've said this the same thing about the previous issues that we got in here, particularly Captain Atom versus Superman. It's just Mortal Kombat. It's the creators taking these things and smashing their toys together. Same exact thing here. Now, the difference with this issue is that while I found that Captain Atom versus Superman kind of at least gave me some background on the characters and made me, I don't know, gave me a little bit of a storyline, this was way sillier. This was like fourth wall breaking. They even have some commentary on the new 52, particularly Lobo's iteration in that, which was much maligned. But it was still a heck of a lot of fun. I love what Jason Howard brought to this because Jorge Corona is the person doing the covers on these. And if you were reading Transformers, you already know the level of artwork that he brings here. Well, Jason Howard was also a fill-in artist on that, so he brings that same kind of D-dubs Transformer energy to the look and feel of this book as well. So it was more hyper-realized, way more kinetic, a lot of fun. It was not anything, again, consequential, but if you're just looking for silly, fun comic books where our characters get to fight back and forth, pick this up because it's super fun. Next up, we have Geiger number 19, written by Jeff Johns with artwork by Gary Frank. So while the title of this is Geiger, we really don't spend a lot of time with him. In fact, this is an Ash Arden specific kind of issue. She's back and hell is coming with her. She abandoned the town where her and Geiger had met, and kind of her plans to kind of siphon his energy and or have him siphon her energy out totally backfired, did not work. Now she's on this, path of retribution. She's going to all of the places where people had wronged her in the past and basically trying to right those wrongs in brutal, radioactive kind of fashion. It's really cool. And what we're kind of getting here is a different viewpoint. If while looking through the eyes of Ash, we can kind of see the footsteps that Tariq Geiger's character has kind of been on, right? We've seen the path that he's on. And dare I say that Ash makes him look a little bit compassionate. We get Gary Frank back on this issue too, and it was absolutely worth the wait. We had great artwork in those previous issues, but really kind of getting the main team back together really makes this a special experience. And I have to say, seeing Gary Frank draw certain characters that we know but have never seen in the pages of Geiger, ooh, it hits. It hits so good, man. So make sure you're checking out Geiger. It's obviously building. The whole unnamed universe is definitely building, but I feel like we're getting closer now to the Venn diagram becoming a full circle here, and I can't wait for that to happen. All right, next up we have Infernal Hulk number 2, written by Philip Kennedy Johnson with artwork by Nick Klein. We kind of continue our path here with this possessed Hulk as he awakens a sea god and continues kind of building out his monster army as he's trying to coalesce and kind of like build out all of these different monstrosities after the mother of monsters had been destroyed. He's kind of like the leader now. It's a dialogue light issue here, as it's more so about the fight and the kind of like the grotesqueness of everything that's happening. Klein's work is so visceral, right? Like it's not just the artwork, but even the panel work that he does, how he lays out a page. There's like all kinds of like intestiny blood gloopiness that like kind of border out each panel, and it's gross, and it feels like if you put your finger on it you might walk away with some Nickelodeon slime on your fingers. Like that's the kind of level of viscosity, I guess, that his artwork is bringing. But we kind of saw this coming a mile away, and I said it with issue number 1. The most important part about this book is kind of having a fun narrative, but keeping Nick Klein on this book. And with the last 2 pages here, granted it's only the last 2, we get Kev Walker that comes in and kind of cleans up a little bit. Kev Walker is great, don't get me wrong, but I would love a cohesive feeling to this book, and I'm already starting to see the cracks in the foundation, and that sucks because I'm having such a good time with this book. In fact, this might be my favorite Marvel book right now. But come on, like keep the team in place. Just get the books out or give the creative team enough time to get these issues out. That's what I'm looking for. This issue was great, don't get me wrong, but that worries me. All right, sticking around at Marvel, let's talk Marvel Knights Punisher number 3, written by Jimmy Palmiotti with artwork by Dan Panosian. So we have Everett Ross and Maria, the cook, who has been working for this crime family in Mexico. They've escaped with Frank in tow, and they're trying to basically detox him from this zombie drug that has taken over him. He is El Zombie No More, basically. And it's kind of a cool time that we get to spend with him because this whole series has been, I don't want to say Punisher light, but Punisher has been the set dressing here. He's more like the catalyst for the events to take place than he is the main character. But I have to say, the whole reason I was really excited about this book was Dan Panosian. I love his artwork. His cover work was great. That's why he was my 2024 cover artist of the year. Seeing him on interiors, though, really gets me excited here. But I have to say, what's complementing that artwork so much is his color work. And guess who's coloring him? Yes, that's right, Dan the Man himself. It looks stunning. It's great. This is a really fun series, and I think this is only going to go 4 issues here, so we're almost at the end. But we can see that now Frank maybe has a little bit more control over his own persona and what he's going to do. And considering that he was kind of just brainwashed and used as a tool, he's not going to take that too kindly. So I can't wait to see how Jimmy Palmiotti and Dan Panosian wrap this up. It's going to be a heck of a time, and I guarantee it's going to look great. Issue number 3 was really good. All right, let's talk Minor Arcana number 12, written and drawn by Jeff Lemire. So Teresa has been able to work with her friend and kind of help track down her friend's brother who has been on the run, and he's kind of was working for this crime family that was in this city that now Teresa has returned to. But the only way that she's been able to find him is kind of through this dreamscape that she's been able to tap into while she's been kind of like following along with the hoax of being a psychic with her mother. But now she knows she actually has these magical abilities. The problem is, upon finding her brother, her friend's brother, I should say, she finds out that maybe he has some magical powers as well. So this was a slower issue in the series that has already been pretty darn slow overall, but I also think that it was a needed issue to kind of catch our breath, right? It's a breather kind of issue. That's what this is exactly. We get to see some of the cracks in the veneer as well for our police chief character, as the relationship that he is married to the person that Teresa, our main character, was with in her teenage, early adult years. And so we start to see him as like this perfect character at the beginning of the series, and now we're starting to see him a little bit more, not imperfect, but more human, we'll say. This is definitely a character development kind of issue, and I love the time that we get to spend with each one of these people. It doesn't push the narrative forward so much, but we get to spend time here, and I think that's essential. I think it's needed, and I'm really having a great time with Minor Arcana. Next up, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 13, written by Gene Luen Yang with artwork by Freddie Williams II. The brothers are kind of doing battle as this turf war has ignited with these crime bosses, and they're kind of being taken out by this mysterious figure. I was skeptical, to say the least, over this new creative team taking over. And it's not because I was questioning their abilities, but I was having such a good time and I had bought in so much with Jason Aaron and Juan Ferreira's time with this book that it was so difficult for me to not look at it from that perspective and not have that influence my perspective and maybe kind of like my expectation for this book. But they flipped the table on me. I was really pleasantly surprised by this introductory issue from Yang and Williams. I do think that they kind of hand wave a little bit. I feel like it's kind of cool that we get the brothers together and they're feeling more brotherly, they're feeling more familial, and there's more of a jovial nature to this. And I like that because I think that that's a great place for the brothers to be. However, I feel like we kind of like, I don't know, sacrifice a little bit of the character development that had happened over Aaron's time on the book to get us to now where they're acting in this certain manner. It's forgivable, and it didn't really like take me out of the experience, but I was like, oh, I wish they would have, I don't know, allowed that to breathe a little bit more and to kind of like flow into this next arc. But with that being said, this totally kind of kept me invested in these characters and in this book. I'm definitely going to continue to be along for the ride here. I'm having a great time with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I said this before, but I feel like if TMNT is good, the comic book industry is good. So let's keep this book flowing. I hope this new creative team just does really special things with these characters. Next up, we have Ultimate Black Panther number 23, written by Brian Edward Hill with artwork by Carlos Nito. So we're picking up on the threads of the previous issue where T'Challa and Storm's offspring has now been fully grown, and he's the harbinger basically of the progenitors coming to Earth, and his parents are basically forced to do battle with him. And it's crazy to think that we're at the tail end. This is the penultimate issue of not only Ultimate Black Panther, but we're coming to the tail end of the Ultimate Universe itself. And I'm fairly confident at this point right now, Ultimate Black Panther has probably been the best of the line. Dare I say, definitely the most consistent, but I think maybe kind of the best too. This issue was a bit silly with the prophecies and the Panther mech that is utilized for T'Challa to kind of do battle with all the forces of the Vodacon. But I can't even really be mad at that, right? I mean, that was like still kind of like leaning on what we've learned about Wakanda and what we know their powers happen to be. But it's really all about the consistency. And when I talk about consistency, I'm also talking about the artwork. Carlos Nito wasn't the artist that really kind of like started this book, but I have to say, I feel like his time on the book has probably been what has defined the look of the book. And it kept it humming right along and it looked spectacular. He's kind of like slowly but surely over the series become what the series has been the main artist for it. And I really, really dug it. I think that this has been the best looking book. I think it's been the most well paced and well written book, and it's had a really concise storyline that's been easy to follow. I can't say that about every Ultimate book. This one definitely fit the bill. I can't wait to see how they put the bow on it. Speaking of penultimate, let's talk Ultimate Spider-Man number 23, written by Jonathan Hickman with artwork by Marco Cacchetto and David Messina. So a trio of plans are enacted within the pages of this book, right? Jonah and Ben had they're broadcasting their truths, right? Their investigatory knowledge about what Kingpin has been doing, and Richard and Felicia have been breaking into Kingpin's fortress to try to do battle with him and try to take down his empire. And all the while, Peter is also dealing with Mr. Negative and Wilson Fisk as well, trying to basically, I don't know, get ahead of his own son and trying to save the day as Spider Man would do. This felt both rushed and slow at the same time. With all these competing narratives, I feel like they were all kind of vying for my attention and my needs. And while sometimes that could work out, I think that there was a couple things hampering this. One of those things being that the changing artwork between Messina and Cacchetto, while they both have had individual issues, I think that has been incredibly successful. Now seeing them share issues and some of them take certain parts of the story and others take other parts of the story, I don't know if that was as successful as it necessarily could have been. I would have loved to see either one or the other take the issue and just be done with it. It lost some of that cohesive nature of it. I do like some of the things that were happening here, but I said this with the previous issue, I think, as well. I don't know how they're going to tie up all of these things. You can see that they're starting to, but it still feels like we have so many different question marks that are still out there about the nature of this book and the nature of its influence over the Ultimate Universe. And I just don't know how they're going to do it. Now, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself because we don't know what we don't know. So, talking about this issue, it was a lot of fun. There's some really cool action pieces in here, but it kind of left me wanting more. Maybe we get that next. And with our final Ultimate book, let's talk Ultimate Wolverine number 12, written by Chris Condon with artwork by Alessandro Capuccio. So the resistance has been laid to waste, basically, right? Logan is now infiltrating the place where he was once held prisoner and, brainwashed, and he's trying to free the person whose voice had been in his head that entire time, not necessarily controlling him, but allowing that control to take place. I expect a level of brutality in a Wolverine book. It's kind of a given, right? But there's like a poetry to this issue intermixed with the violence, and I really, really dig that. Wolverine's inner monologue, what he's thinking, the motivation for him going back to this place and saving the one person who he knows is still there and is still being manipulated. Capuccio gets to deliver some all time scenes in this issue, and I don't want to spoil them, but let me tell you, they're epic, they're well earned, and they are really, really, really brutal. Ultimate Wolverine has been a shorter series. We're coming up to the end of it as in this one as well, but I have to say, it's been like a really fun roller coaster ride of action over and over and over. And I'm kind of here for it. It's the best Wolverine book that I've seen in quite a while. And with my runner up book of the week, let's talk Our Soot Stained Heart number 1, written by Joni Hogg with artwork by Stipin Morian. So, in this book, we have Pamela, this young orphan, who is working in the Coalition, a town hell bent on gathering coal by way of fighting, lying, stealing, and generally being on the naughty list. We know that being bad gets you coal for Christmas. But Pamela kind of refuses to be mad. It goes against the core of her nature and her being. Similar to kind of what I was talking about with Assorted Crisis events this week, this introductory issue here is both easy and difficult at the same time to see where it's going. It's kind of like 80% Snowpiercer with like 15% the St. Nicholas Santa Claus story with a little bit of Norse mythology and maybe even like 2% Dr. Zhivago. It's this revolution of the working class where we're not sure exactly what they're revolting just yet. Now, this is the runner up book of the week, so there has to be some gravity behind it. And I have to say that a lot of that comes by way of Stipian's artwork. It looks fantastic. If you have not seen their artwork, do yourself a favor, go check out 20th Century Men that was written by Dennis Camp. It's absolutely stunning, and it continues that trend in this book right here. But with it being runner up, I have to say that its ranking right here is all about potential for me. I feel like this lays a foundation for a really, really cool story that could be followed through here, kind of playing on Norse mythology and that Santa Claus storyline, but in a really great way. I want to see where they go from here. The future issues are definitely going to impact my feeling about how this introductory issue does. As a standalone issue and setting up expectation, though, I think it does it superbly, and I can't wait to get issue number 2. And with my top comic of the week, let's talk Absolute Batman number 15, written by Scott Snyder with artwork by Jock. So things have gotten grim in Gotham, and Alfred is telling the tale of the city's history and the man dressed up as a jester to Bruce Wayne. And Bruce is kind of like, egging him on, trying to get him to tell the story of the person who Alfred has been basically trying to track down this entire time. And he keeps trying to get more truth out of him, not just what the paperwork is offering, but what Alfred's true opinion of this person is. And it's such a weird, fun juxtaposition of Bruce and the Joker that takes itself 100% serious. This is no laughing matter, pun intended. Jock makes this iteration of the Joker so brutal and menacing and monstrous. The cover gives it away, but the interiors really build on that dread. It's a really fun time to have with this character and kind of see just exactly how it is that they're flipping everything on its head, making the Joker, the individual that is the Joker, such a different character here. Billionaire, has, multiple islands, is hunting exactly what you think a rich person would hunt, maybe the most difficult game to track down. And it's setting things up to really have these characters go against one another in brutal, epic fashion. Jock was such a great person to take on the look and feel of this book. And I love that as Alfred is telling the story of the Joker and the differing ideas of who this character is, we kind of get the same look and feel of each page, but just subtle changes are happening to where it kind of influences the story that Alfred is telling and the subtle different details that he's giving to Bruce with each one of these things coming through. Absolute Batman has really, really catapulted itself into definitely my favorite Absolute book, at least right here and right now in this moment, but they're always jockeying and vying for position, right? Right now, Absolute Batman is the best book for me. I'm having such a great time with it. It made it absolutely worthy of top comic of the week. So that's what I got for you this week, but I'm more curious. What did you read and what were your thoughts? Do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe, and be part of the panel. Leave me a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you next week.